I ain't messing with you. You don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Poorboys Little Homestead. First time here, thanks for dropping in. Feel free to drop in anytime you feel, my friend. Guys, today I'm going to be showing y'all how to prune your tomatoes, top your tomatoes, and explaining why you would want to prune your tomatoes and top your tomatoes. So let's get to pruning, guys. Guys, that's a Honey Delight yellow tomato. And you can see that is one big bushed out tomato plant. Just a big bush. I didn't start out trimming the suckers on this one, but now it's getting so big and bushed out and still growing. Now I'm going around trying to trim all the suckers, and a lot of the suckers that ain't got no blooms on it off. There's a bird in here that got a nest, and she's a little upset that I'm up in here trimming up around her nest. Now guys, if you got a tomato plant and it's got a bird that's done built a nest up in there, that's your friend. You leave that nest in there no matter what kind of bird it is. Because if you start getting any tomato worms, hornworms, that bird, more than likely, she may not keep them controlled, but she's going to eat some of them for you and help keep them under control. So me personally, I wished I had a bird nest in every tomato plant I had. Just thought I'd throw that little tip in for you. Don't pull that nest out. Leave it in there and let her have her home. Let her have her breakfast, dinner, and supper on you. Now, my tomatoes start getting ripe and she starts pecking holes in the tomatoes, we may have to do something then, but for the time being, as long as she's leaving the fruit alone, leave her in there, because them tomato worms, hornworms start coming out, she'll help you out. Now this one on this side's a zebra tomato. When it's ripe, it's supposed to be green and look like a watermelon stripe. Green zebra. I should have been pruning on these, taking the suckers off. Because the suckers, the reason they're called suckers is they suck the energy out of the plant that needs to be going and making these tomatoes bigger. But this is two of the plants that had got 2,4-D on them. And I left these two because they wasn't as bad as my others. I pulled all the rest of them up. And that's why you see there's two little ones on each side. That's going to be a Italian ice white tomato. And this one down here is a black pearl tomato. The Italian ice and the black pearl, the 2,4-D pretty much killed them back. So I just pulled them up and started over. But I have some more Italian ice and black pearls out in my garden. This is just my little bed up here near the house. pruning tomatoes right here in what you call the armpit. This stem coming out right here, that's a sucker. So what I like to do when my tomatoes is small is keep the suckers. There's a little sucker right there. There's a little sucker over in that armpit. There's a little sucker right here in this armpit. And this is something you have to stay on top of at least once a week. And I want to keep one main stem going up this string in this cage. 2 at the most. A lot of times I like to have 2. I let one sucker, like if I'd have let this one go, it would have made 2 main stems, and then keep all the rest of your suckers pruned off. You keep your suckers pruned off, you'll get bigger tomatoes. If you got them in cages like these set up, and you want to don't trim your suckers, just let them turn to thick bushes like that, you'll get more tomatoes, but they'll be smaller tomatoes. They won't get as big slicing tomatoes. If you keep your suckers pruned off and keep it to 1 stem, 2 at the most, then you can get you bigger slicing tomatoes. Like I said, keep them suckers trimmed off on a regularly, so that sucks the energy that needs to be going from the plant into making your fruit. You see how big I've let some of these suckers get on these ones bushing. And now I decided after the plant looks so good, I'd trim some of them off. But you gotta be careful. Just a few moments ago, I cut one off and didn't realize it had a little cluster of tomatoes on it. If I'd have seen that, I wouldn't have cut it off. Now these 2 bushy plants, they still gonna have a lot, they still got a lot of suckers on them. I'm just trying to cut them and keep them at bay at where they at now. Let what there do what it wants to do. And when they burst out like this, you'll think you got them, and then you can walk around or stand here a minute and look, and you'll start seeing more that you didn't get. Also, guys, on a plant this big, you can see up in there my main stems is still going, but these suckers that's got clusters of tomatoes, little blooms up here on the end, you can top them. That way it'll put its energy into the blooms and tomatoes that's there. Because I don't want these to keep going taller and taller, because no, they'll just get out here and fall over. So I'm topping these outer suckers that's went wild. I'm topping these off. So it'll go on and the plant will put its energy into what blooms is there. Now, topping your tomatoes is something you can do when you get into the end of your growing season. And you got tomatoes on your vine that's not ripe, but you know your frost date is coming up. It's going to be frosting if you got some fall tomatoes. You want to top them. That way it'll stop growing and go on and finish ripening the tomatoes on the plant, so you won't lose them all. Guys, when you topping them, just like this is a big sucker here that's growing. When you topping them, you see I got some blooms here. But when you topping a tomato, you follow your main stem up And you can see right here where it splits. There's another little bitty sucker right there. That's a sucker because it was in the armpit. But this here is the top portion of your tomato that would keep going. That's where you want to top it. Always look. Make sure you get above your last blooms, because them blooms there turn to tomatoes. Here's another one right here on the outside. You see the main stem here coming up. There's some blooms there. It's gonna make a cluster of tomatoes. You coming up. And I got some little bitty blooms starting right there. You can see it splits off. And that last little portion that's coming up right there, that's what you want to top off. That way it won't keep growing taller. See, there's another little sucker starting right here. That way it won't keep growing taller. It'll stop growing taller and start putting the energy into them blooms and making fruit. And then the tomatoes that's on here, like them clusters of tomatoes there, about quarter size, it'll start putting the energy into making them bigger. Now we got a lot of growing season left. It's just now the 1st of June. But I want this plant to start putting its energy into them blooms that's there, and then the energy that's in the fruit that's already on it. But it'll still continue to make more suckers. And where I top them, it'll continue to grow. But for the time being, it's going to put most of its energy into the fruit that's on the plant and the blooms that's on the plant. Then as them tomatoes get ripe, and time's allowing, because here in Zone 8, we don't get our first frost till up in November. I'll let them start back growing taller. After the tomatoes, I harvest the tomatoes below, I'll prune a lot of that stuff off the bottom. And this stuff that gets taller, once it gets to the top of these tripod poles here, I can turn around and start right back down with that vine and start wrapping it around this cage, tying it to the cage, because down here I have all this trimmed off once it gets that time of the year. Guys, I hope this quick little video gives you a tip, a little understanding on what suckers are, why you want to prune them off or why you want to leave them on, how to top your tomatoes, why you want to top your tomatoes. And like I said, topping tomatoes, once they start getting taller than your cage or your post, if you don't top them, they just gonna start hanging over. And the plant won't put its energy into growing the fruit and the blooms that's on there. But I hope this video was helpful. If you like it, please give me a big thumbs up. If you hadn't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and share my videos on your social media. It'll help me grow my channel and I greatly appreciate it. God bless. Y'all have a good day. See y'all next time.